everyone, Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton here with our weekly update here on social media. A lot going on this week, and of course, it almost always include, if it's another week, more lawsuits from Judicial Watch for government accountability, transparency, and to advance the rule of law. And we have several FOIA lawsuits, including a new one on Hunter Biden's laptop. Yes, believe it or not, the Justice Department, the FBI are hiding records protecting Hunter Biden over his laptop scandal. Really outrageous. And these scandals are not going away. They require adjudication, education, and pursuit. And Judicial Watch doesn't believe that we should forget about a corruption scandal that happened literally 2 minutes ago. In terms of American history, especially as the ramifications continue to this day, and specifically in Ukraine. As I've observed before, one of the reasons Russia thought, I believe, that they could invade Ukraine with impunity is because of Biden's corruption. They knew about his corruption. They knew about Hunter Biden in Ukraine, who was buddies with Burisma on the board of directors of Burisma, which was a Russia-friendly agency or company. And there were all sorts of other issues related to Russia as well that the Russians knew full well Biden was up to his neck in corruption. In fact, we had documents come out from the Biden State Department talking about how the Russians were trolling President Biden, or then Vice President Biden, on his anti-corruption work in Ukraine because they knew all about Hunter and Burisma, and they were mocking him. And it's that type of mockery and lack of respect they knew Biden was compromised. So was it the reason they invaded Ukraine? No, obviously. Was it a reason? Did it make it, when you're doing your pros and cons, your pros are, well, Biden's corrupted and compromised, we can probably push him. I'm convinced that's the case. But since then, obviously, Joe Biden took the extraordinary step of pardoning his son for specific crimes that he was prosecuted for, which may be appropriate, but also going back for years for crimes that aren't named. And to me, that makes it inappropriate, null and void. On top of the whole auto pen fiasco, which shows that the evidence shows that Biden didn't really involve himself, at least as documented and testified to by his top aides at the White House, in affirming these pardons. There's no evidence he affirmed them, other than him saying after the fact, oh yeah, well, I signed those pardons or I agreed with them. I mean, that may not be enough. So when President Trump noted a few weeks ago, I think it was last week maybe, that the pardons are null and void, he is righter than right. But I would ask, why is Pam Bondi and Kash Patel's agencies, the FBI under Patel and the DOJ under Bondi, still hiding records on Hunter Biden? We had to sue in federal court. I don't like having to sue, believe it or not. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't get to sue, but Judicial Watch does. We prefer just to get the documents and not have to go to federal court for them. And these documents, we asked for the records back in, let's go to the press release here, 2025, back in the beginning of this year, January of 2025. All FBI investigative reports, witness interviews, summaries, memoranda, and other records related to the investigation of Hunter Biden's laptop. All emails, text messages, link messages, that's a specific program they have to communicate, and other electronic communications records related to the Hunter Biden laptop. And when you look at the lawsuit, this is something interesting here. Let me bring up the lawsuit here for you, because I want you to see just how obstructive that this FBI has been under Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, who I'm friendly with, but I don't understand why they're not paying attention to this. And if they find out about it as a result of this video, that'd be great. They should ask their underlings what the heck's going on here. I want to show you this because this is pretty important. Let's hit view. So here's the complaint. This is the official federal lawsuit Judicial Watch filed against the Justice Department. So just so you know, when you want FBI records, you got to sue the Justice Department. Because it's, you know, the FBI likes to pretend they're different than they're not. They're an agency. They're a Justice Department agency. So you don't sue the FBI, you sue the Justice Department for FBI records. So we asked for the records. For records categorized, time between January 2019 to the present, because in 2019, that's when the FBI got the laptop. The FBI categorically denied plaintiff's request. Plaintiff is Judicial Watch, which had been on March 18th, 2025. You see that? Paragraph 7. On March 19th, plaintiff, Judicial Watch, administratively appealed the FBI's denial to the defendant's Office of Information Policy. So this is what happens sometimes when you are in FOIA. You file the Freedom of Information Act request at with the federal agency, and if it's denied, you can appeal the denial internally, administratively. In this case, in this agency, to the Office of Information Policy. And administratively, they're supposed to take a look as to what the decision was and administratively give you justice and hopefully get you the documents. On September 11th, 2025, the Office of Information Policy informed plaintiff that upon consideration of the appeal, it had remanded the request to the FBI for further processing. You know, what does that mean? We won. At least administratively. And the FBI hasn't done anything since. We received no further communication from the agency since September 11th of this year. And that's why we sued. So we asked for these Hunter Biden records. They categorically denied them, citing in part Hunter Biden's, well, not in part, actually in whole, FOIA exemptions B6 and B7C are all privacy exemptions. So they're hiding records to protect, or were hiding records to protect Hunter Biden's privacy. So why is the Justice Department protecting Hunter Biden? And internally they were slapped for hiding the records from Judicial Watch, and we still don't have them, and now we're in federal court. So, when the Justice Department does the right thing, I'll be second to none in praising it. Second to none. But when they're slow or withholding information contrary to law, I gotta call them out. Judicial Watch calls them out literally by going and suing them in federal court. So it's frustrating to have to sue this Justice Department and this FBI in federal court to get access about something like Hunter Biden's laptop information and how that case was handled or / mishandled. So I know many people say, well, they're building a case. They can't give you the records. Or no, they're not. And if they were, they're supposed to tell us you can't have the records because it might impair law enforcement proceedings and such. They haven't said any of that. So all the excuses that sometimes people come up with to justify government withholdings don't apply. We know what we're doing. So here we are, nearly a year after President Trump has come into office, and the FBI has been slow walking key records about Hunter Biden's corruption, Joe Biden's family corruption, the whole kit and caboodle for almost a year. The Justice Department's refusal to release, and the FBI's refusal to release these basic investigative records raises serious questions about transparency about one of the biggest corruption scandals in American history, the Hunter Biden laptop, the cover-up. Remember, they all knew about Hunter Biden's corruption. They all knew about the laptop, and they tried to hide it from the American people. And when it was exposed, they censored those who exposed it, the New York Post, etc. Yours truly. You know, we had to sue for records on Joe Biden's pardon of Hunter. We just sued this summer on it. We had to sue the National Archives. Again, still fighting that this National Archives under President Trump for Biden family records and communications, basically their RICO operation. We sued the IRS for Hunter Biden records back in February. I mean, we'd already exposed how the CIA rushed through that letter, the 51 anti-Trump intel officials signed to try to fool the American people into thinking the Hunter Biden laptop was a sham. The CIA rushed through approval of that letter to interfere in our election. Judicial Watch proved that. We found the documents there. So we normally ask for records. We're not doing it just for the sake of asking for records. We generally know there's something to be found. I mean, our instincts are what your instincts are. There's usually a cover-up. Numerous lawsuits about the corruption involved in the censorship of Hunter Biden. And as I said earlier, information confirming that the Ukraine was the center of a corruption scandal involving until just less than a year ago, the President of the United States, Joe Biden. And yes, it's important still today because we've got a war going on in Ukraine, I think caused in part by Joe Biden's corruption. So hopefully we get the documents. Every once in a while, the Justice Department gives us documents, which is good. But you know what? Every once in a while, the Biden people gave us documents too that were not flattering. So what am I saying? The Justice Department, FOIA's operation, in terms of transparency, under the Freedom of Information Act. I'm not talking about releasing records to Congress or all of that. I'm talking about we have a right to records under the law, and they're not complying with the law on key issues like Hunter Biden's corruption, Joe Biden's corruption, which of course is tied to the lawfare against Trump, because to distract from that corruption, what did they try to do? Impeach and jail Donald J. Trump. And why are his people, President Trump's people, hiding the information about that scandal from the American people? That's what's going on right now. So let's hope someone wakes up. In the meantime, Judicial Watch will maybe shake them awake, right? Through a federal court lawsuit. You know, the other crisis we're facing is reversing the Biden invasion and the other illegal aliens who, over the last few decades, have invaded America. Millions upon millions. And as President Trump and his team have shut down the border and have engaged in unprecedented efforts to deport aliens who are unlawfully present here, illegal aliens, yes, they are illegal aliens, that's a term in law. They are faced with hostility from, what I call it is this nascent insurrection, this casual sedition by politicians, left-wing groups, and more than a few federal judges. And so you have these sanctuary city politicians or sanctuary state politicians that are inciting violence against ICE, inciting violence against law enforcement, inciting violence against the National Guard, and aiding and abetting illegal activity. Even if they weren't inciting violence, they'd be, in my view, subject to criminal investigation for aiding and abetting illegal aliens' presence here in the United States. So we have a number of lawsuits over that issue. Up in Illinois, we've got lawsuits in Arizona, and we just sued Boston's mayor for records of a pro-sanctuary press conference, and this is the kind of the ridiculous aspect of what she was doing. It featured a mariachi band. Talk about racial profiling and being racially patronizing. A mariachi band to talk while she's defending a sanctuary system in Boston. Are all illegal aliens from Mexico? I mean, it's so patronizing, it's just unbelievable. And the absurdity of the whole process, or the whole, you know, the lawless press conference, because she was advocating lawlessness, is shown here in this video. Let's play the video.
My name is Veronica Robles. Everybody roll in your eyes. So we're gonna get started with a very slow song, a beautiful song that is about a shepherd working in a field that is free for everyone and feeling welcome. It's about a shepherd, loving shepherd, empathic. So I hope you enjoy. It is called El Pastor. Ready? Hoo-hoo-ya. Everybody say hoo-hoo-ya. Hoo-hoo-ya. Early in the morning at the sunrise, everybody happy, out for a long journey of work, loving and caring. Va el pastor con su rebaño al despuntar la mañana, bajando por el sendero de la sierra a la pradera, va musicando sus quejas con su flautín de carrizo, seguido por sus ovejas como si fuera un hechizo. Everybody, hoo-hoo-ya, hoo-hoo-ya.
Now, it seemed like the woman singing had a nice voice, and I don't criticize the musicianship of the band, but who on earth would bring a mariachi band in these circumstances is just beyond me. But more importantly what was the subject of the press conference, which was lawlessness, which was insurrection-like advocacy against the federal government, the rule of law, your personal safety, and your right and your expectation that the federal government protect you from a foreign invasion. Judicial Watch filed the lawsuit up in Suffolk County Superior Court, which is in Massachusetts, after the Wu administration failed to respond to a public records request for emails of Mayor Wu and her immediate staff about Attorney General Bondi's demands that Boston modify its sanctuary city policy and cooperate with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. as well as records related to the appearance of that mariachi band who was trotted out to patronize the supposed people who are being targeted by ICE. Just unbelievable. At the August event, Wu reportedly vowed to resist the Justice Department's efforts to secure cooperation from local governments with federal immigration enforcement. Now let me go see what she actually said here. That's what I'm curious about. So Wu's response specifically was, "Stop attacking our cities to hide your administration's failures." So when you enforce the rule of law, you're actually defending cities, you're defending citizens, you're defending lawfully present aliens, people who are here legally, and frankly, you're helping illegal aliens as well. Because when you're outside the law, you don't have the traditional protections, and you're more easily victimized. Many of them are trafficked to get there. So here you have the mayor of Boston defending human trafficking in effect, defending lawlessness in effect, defending all the crime associated with illegal aliens' presence here in the United States. And I want to know the details. You want to know the details of this lawlessness. And we have a right to know the details, Judicial Watch does, when we ask for these documents under law. And they basically gave us, again, the proverbial hand to the face when we asked for the records. And by the way, just in the last few months, they've arrested 1,500 illegals up in Massachusetts and in the Boston area. So it's a serious issue up in Massachusetts. Many of whom, hundreds of whom, were violent criminals. Mayor Wu staged a racist political spectacle instead of cooperating with federal law enforcement, even as dangerous criminal aliens are still at large in her city. Boston residents deserve to know why the mayor's office refuses transparency about this event and why their city hall is stonewalling lawful public records requests. So, you know, when you engage in lawlessness and to promote lawlessness, I guess I shouldn't be surprised when the lawlessness continues in terms of the cover-up and transparency. But, you know, and it's important we keep the pressure on for immigration enforcement, because I have a sneaking suspicion that there are more than a few politicians, mainly in the Republican Party, who are getting nervous because they're facing election headwinds next year. And I'm sure you're going to get weak-kneed politicians of both political parties. Again, it's not a partisan issue. We have an immigration crisis because of failures by both the Republican and Democratic parties. And Trump, relatively speaking, is a hero compared to what has come before when it came to immigration policy. I mean, he has shut down the border, detaining and throwing out of the country mass deportations, upwards of at least 1,000 a day. I don't know if they've reached those numbers, but it should be 3,000 plus a day in order to fully reverse the Biden invasion. But some Republicans are getting nervous about it because of the media pressure and the other public relations pressures. You see, Kristi Noem was before a congressional committee this week. The Democrats were completely unhinged, the leftists there. They wanted her to resign. She deserves a medal for helping Trump shut down the border. Now, I'm critical of the administration in some areas. I tell you, when it comes to the fact they just shut down the border has saved countless lives. Countless lives. Not only American lives and lawful residents here of the United States, but also countless lives and the safety of the illegal aliens and the children who were trafficked and sex trafficked as a result of our open borders. For that alone, Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize, but he won't get it. So this is a big deal. You know, we're not going to ease up the pressure on behalf of the rule of law on immigration enforcement here at Judicial Watch. We're going to applaud agencies, as President Trump's agencies are doing, that are doing the right thing on immigration enforcement. We want more to be done, but what's been done thus far is just record-setting. But you can see there's a category of politician out there, left-leaning mostly, that support open borders, support criminality, and don't care about your public safety and don't care about the future of our constitutional republic. They want the invaders to win. And we're going to expose it as best we're able and educate the American people about this dire threat to the future of our country. Because we won't have a country if they win, if our borders become open again. We won't have a country. So this is an interesting FOIA lawsuit we just filed. So when, let's say you're a public figure and you die and the FBI's got files on you, we ask for and obtain those FBI files. And there have been numerous files we've asked for and obtained on individuals who passed away who have had reason to have been involved or subject to FBI scrutiny. One of those individuals that we just, for whose FBI files we just sued for, is Hillary Clinton's brother, Tony Rodham. Tony Rodham passed away, I think, in 2019, if I recall, if I'm correct. Yeah, it must have been 2019 because that's when we asked for the records first. And we asked the FBI, give us records on Tony Rodham back in June of 2019. I'll show you, here, let's go to the, here we have the press release. Judicial Watch sues Justice Department for FBI records on Hillary Clinton's brother, Tony Rodham. As I read that headline, I want to make the edit. Judicial Watch sues for FBI records. It's like, as I said earlier in the broadcast, to get FBI records, you got to sue the Justice Department. You don't sue the FBI, and it's like, boy, that's just confusing. All records related to Anthony Dean Rodham, Tony Rodham, born in August '54 in Park Ridge, Illinois. He died on June 7th, 2019, so we asked for the records 3 days after he passed away, including but not limited to investigative reports, 302s. 302s are written reports related to summaries of interviews, witness statements, confidential human source reporting, meeting contacts. All of these are documented. Cables, letterhead memoranda, and communications sent to and from FBI officials related to Rodham. And there's another load of information, it's clear. In August, the FBI acknowledged it had located over 13,000 pages of records responsive to the request, as well as audio and video files that are potentially responsive to the request. Whoa, they got audio of Tony Rodham? Who was he talking to? Where's that from? Boy, those Epstein files are interesting. These might be as interesting. After years of delays, in May of 2025, the FBI again acknowledged possession of responsive records and asked if there was still interest. This is the new game, by the way, that the deep state plays. You asked for these records a few years ago. You still want them? And at one point, they were suggesting if we didn't respond, they would just drop the request. Of course, we didn't did any work. And we said, of course, we still want them. Judicial Watch acknowledges continued interest in having the request processed without modification of its scope. And that's the last we communicated with them. They didn't respond, so we sued. So this is what happened. We asked for the records about Tony Rodham during the Trump administration. They got back to us relatively quickly. And said there are 13,000 pages of records. And a year and a half later, we still hadn't gotten anything. The Biden administration, 4 years, ignores our requests. And then the Trump people come in. I guess they're looking at the old requests and say, hey, you still want this because we basically don't want to respond. And we told the FBI, of course we want the records. Why are you hiding them? Now, Rodham, if you want to know something about the Clinton crime family, you need to figure out what Tony Rodham was up to. And our press release just covers a little bit of it. While Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, former Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe and Rodham were beneficiaries of the EB-5 Cash for Visa program, in which they raised at least $46 million from investors for their green tech automotive electric car company. Green Tech followed for bankruptcy in February 2018, so you should look up that scandal. This is another classic. Rodham for decades used his connections with the Clintons to further his failing career. Rodham described himself as a facilitator and had a range of opportunities like addressing Chinese investor conferences and joining an advisory board of a company seeking permission to mine for gold in Haiti. The Clintons in Haiti. I mean, you know, where's the Hollywood movie on the Clintons in Haiti? Can you imagine what that would be like? Among other controversies, Rodham also pursued contracts in post-earthquake Haiti, seeking a $22 million housing deal, while Bill Clinton co-chaired the Recovery Commission, a proposal that collapsed, probably under public scrutiny if I recall correctly. What's currently in the public record about the schemes of Hillary Clinton's little brother, Tony, likely just scratches the surface, I said in our press release. Clearly, the Justice Department and FBI have been sitting on a motherlode of information. And we've got so much stuff on the Rodham Clinton gang as it is. You know, we exposed. And the reason Hillary lost the presidency is because of the work we did. We weren't doing it to make sure she didn't win the presidency, because when we first started asking questions about her emails, about what she was doing at the State Department, it was before she had announced her run. Frankly, I didn't even think she was going to run. So we knew her being at the State Department was a corruption problem because we knew Hillary was corrupt from her prior dealings with her during the Clinton administration. And we found out how Clinton Foundation donors were going to the State Department and getting special favors, despite promises by Hillary that all that would be forbidden if she became State Department Secretary of State. And many of the emails show instances of Rodham seeking to leverage his influence as Clinton's brother. In January 2010, confidential assistant Monica Hanley forwarded to Abedin, Huma Abedin was Hillary Clinton's assistant, a request from Rodham on 3 issues. One involved help on a green card renewal. Another involved a visit by someone of which Abedin said they wanted to regret. And the third involved a job for someone whose CV Rodham forwarded to State. Let's look at that email. Look at this. Dear Tony, attached you can find a copy of my U.S. green card and extract from Part 4 of the accusatory complaint against Michelle Sask. I can't pronounce the last name. So Tony forwards it to the State Department. then her top person basically says, Tony's calling looking for this. He's asking for help with the green card renewal. Someone was going to have a visit with someone that was close to him that they wanted, that based on this email, Tony wanted the visit to take place and the State Department didn't. So he's pushing on that. And then the CV for an unnamed individual. And he was pushing and pushing. So my question is, when are we going to get the audio, video, and other records about Hillary Clinton's corrupt little brother, Tony Rodham? Because if it's Tony Rodham corruption, we're talking about Hillary Clinton corruption. And why is the FBI stonewalling the release of these records and asking us to essentially go away? That's what their request was earlier. Hey, you going to leave us alone on this? We told them no, and we sued. So another big lawsuit under FOIA about a major corruption scandal. So the media will focus, and we have been focused on, Epstein files, but now we've got Hillary Clinton files, essentially. Basically audio files and video files concerning FBI investigations of her brother. You want to see those records? I do. We're going to pursue this continuously in federal court. So some significant FOIA lawsuits by Judicial Watch. And when it comes to gaining information from the government that the government doesn't want you, fellow citizen, to see, Judicial Watch is second to no one. We filed well over 1,000 FOIA lawsuits, countless thousands of FOIA requests, and Judicial Watch is the #1 freedom of information litigator in the history of the United States. No one else doing what we're doing anywhere else in the world to uncover the truth about government corruption. And we're only able to do it with your support. And again, I encourage you to support our work. If you want more lawsuits like this, if you want the truth about what the government's up to, you can't do much better, I guess you could, in theory, than supporting Judicial Watch. Go to judicialwatch.org, judicialwatch.org, and find out more about these lawsuits, support our work, share the information we're gaining. I'm telling you about this information we previously gained on Clinton corruption that, frankly, resulted in President Trump becoming president. That was the consequence of our work. So FOIA matters, that's for sure. And so your support in this regard would be welcome, and you would have my gratitude. I'll see you here next time on the Judicial Watch Weekly Update. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.